Welcome everybody to another prison reality check episode of Lockdown 23 and 1. That's right, today I got multiple recent stories of inmates losing their life behind bars. One of the stories in particular, coming from Georgia, blows my mind on how an inmate could die like that. We'll get there soon. Not to mention, just recently, 3 people killed inside of a Nevada, however you like to say it, prison. We're going to get into all this, but first, if you're new to the channel and enjoy all things lockup and crime related, then this is where you want to be. Hit that like, subscribe, notification bell before you leave, and check out my playlist with many more videos for you to start watching today. So the first story is coming from Georgia, and like I said in the intro, I cannot believe an inmate lost their life like this. The article begins saying the Georgia sun scorched the slab of concrete beneath Juan Carlos Ramirez's body when nurses found him in a puddle of his own excrement, vomiting, according to a complaint. It says officers left Ramirez in an outdoor cell at Telfair State Prison for 5 hours without water, shade, or ice, even as the outside temperature climbed to 96 degrees by the afternoon. According to a lawsuit brought by his family, that evening the complaint says that Ramirez died from lung and heart failure caused by heat exposure. Look, I've been experiencing summers for quite a while, and it seems like the recent ones have been hotter than usual. I've been to a few prisons that have no AC, and when you hit the rec yard, there's no trees, no shade, barely any grass. So the majority of inmates, besides the ones that work out every day, don't matter, rain, sleet, or snow, if the yard's open, they're working out. Other than that, the majority of people are sitting inside. They'll wait for nighttime rec. Most prisons have that when the sun goes down a little bit, right? But I've also went to the whole 23 and 1, and I've experienced the dog kennels, right? And there's definitely no shade out there. You're just in a fence, and sun beaming. So 5 hours without water, shade, and extremely humid temperature and high heat, I can easily see how someone died. The Ramirez family, including his mother, announced a lawsuit against the Georgia Department of Corrections on Thursday, alleging that the officers' negligent performance of their duties caused his death. The warden directed officers to check on inmates, bring them water and ice, and limit their time outside, the complaint says. Obviously, the COs watching Ramirez probably didn't get that memo. The Department of Corrections reported that Ramirez died of natural causes. But it goes on to say that a prison staff member brought Ramirez to an outdoor rec cell around 10 a.m. The temperature had reached 86 degrees by then. About 3 p.m., 5 on-site nurses rushed into the yard in response to an alert from security staff. That's when the nurses found him lying naked on the concrete. Why would he be naked, man? Maybe because he's mentally unstable, I'm not quite sure, or he wanted to take off his clothes to try to get a little bit of shade. I can't even imagine what was going through his mind, on the brink of death from heat exhaustion. He was trying everything probably to cool down. Wonder if they got any surveillance footage of this. Ramirez's breathing was strained and his heartbeat was irregular. A nurse said that Ramirez was blue and hot to the touch, according to the complaint. Nurses pressed cold water bottles on his groin and under his arms. Nurses then put an automated external defibrillator on Ramirez's chest, but it did not deliver the shock. After some time passed, a doctor finally arrived to help the nurses administer cardiopulmonary resuscitation. He tried to insert tubes into Ramirez, who still had trouble breathing. Now, keyword later, his internal body temperature was recorded at 107 degrees Fahrenheit. How long later? And was he put inside? Even if his body was just sitting on a table inside for 30 or 40 minutes with AC, it's going to lower his temp. So when did they check it? But, that's the bulk of it. And I'm sure more details on this is going to come out in the open when the lawsuit moves forward, but my condolences go out to that family. I can't even imagine getting news that one of my children was pretty much cooked alive alone on the prison concrete floor. He was probably screaming for help. Very, very sad situation. Next up, we're traveling down to California. Sean Jackson, a 21-year-old incarcerated at the California State Prison in Corcoran, died Sunday afternoon after he was allegedly attacked by another inmate, Jarvis Richardson. The death is being investigated as a homicide. Now, Jackson, the 21-year-old, was convicted of pimping in Orange County and was serving a 4-year sentence. He was probably going to get out before he even turned 25. And as y'all know, a lot of pimps nowadays are not just getting pimping as a charge, they're getting something more serious, human and sexual trafficking. Yeah, that's what he was in there for at the age of 19. Now, the individual that allegedly attacked him was Richardson. He was 31 years old. He's already served numerous sentences for unlawful possession of a weapon, inflicting corporal injury, and assault with a firearm. But he's currently serving 8 years for rape. This just goes to show you that it doesn't matter what kind of paperwork a person has, they can still kill your ass. I promise, 100% across the country. Hundreds, if not thousands, of inmates are walking the main line, living just fine, putting in work for organizations with bad paperwork. But I'm not saying that this is the case with this one. Chances are both of them with this kind of paperwork in California are in some kind of PC unit. Not sure, just guessing. But homeboy went to prison at 19. What'd he get, 4 funky, dusty years? He had no idea. In all actuality, it was a death sentence. Crazy, crazy. You don't know what kind of ticket fate has in store for you. Now, next up, we're traveling to Nevada. This just happened hours ago. Breaking news coming from Ely State Prison. Hopefully I pronounced that right, but it's spelled E-L-Y if you want to look it up. But this article begins saying 3 inmates have died and 9 others were transported for medical treatment as a result of an altercation on Tuesday. No correctional officers were injured, and the department gave no additional details about how the deaths and injuries occurred. 3 people killed and 9 people transported to a medical facility. I'm here to tell you, with that many inmates involved and no officers injured, it had to have been gang-related. The department did not release the names of any inmates that died or the conditions of those injured. The prison remained on lockdown as of late Tuesday afternoon as authorities investigate the deaths and injuries. And that's typical, man. You gotta expect when that many people die, they're probably going to be on lock for the next few months. Not to mention the surrounding prisons. They're going to let them know as well. Because if it is gang related, you best believe words travel. And that situation could possibly still be brewing in a different prison. You got to understand, in some of these prisons, these organizations are super militant. And when they're ordered to do something, they do it. Majority of the time, it's because if they don't, they know they'll die. Right? Once you're head deep, it's hard to get out. But that's about the bulk for that article. Now jumping over to a different one coming from 8 News. It says that their investigators have learned that this appears to have been a feud between 2 rival gangs. Man, oh man. So yeah, like I already said, it had to have been some kind of organization. Because look, it doesn't matter what state you're in, alright? You don't see too many lone wolves, fight with a bunch of other lone wolves together. It just don't work like that. Very rare if it does. Not much more to say about this, but if I were to guess, within the next day or two, man, a lot of information is going to be coming to the light. Because that's a lot of deaths, man. They got to answer to that. Also, some of those 9 individuals that went to the hospital, they could be on like some kind of life support situation. Die a few days later, so the death toll could rise. And that happens all the time. It's actually going to lead me into my next story. But first, before we get there, my condolences go out to the families. Even though I don't know who these inmates are, it doesn't matter. I know they got loved ones. Now, the next story, we're traveling down to Seminole County, Florida. Like I just said in the last story, sometimes, inmates, they die a few days later after a situation. And it doesn't have to be a stabbing. Like this story, it says, investigation is underway after a Seminole County inmate died following a physical altercation. The Seminole County Sheriff's Office said the victim, 30-year-old Matthew Wilson, was involved in an altercation with another inmate on Tuesday around 7 p.m. at the John E. Polk Correctional Facility. During the altercation, Wilson struck his head on the ground, and 2 hours later, he reported extreme head pain to the deputies. Wilson was examined by medical staff and was transferred to a hospital for further medical attention. Despite all efforts, he was pronounced dead on Wednesday. So a fight that he probably walked away from. Yeah, his head hurt. He probably took a couple punches. He didn't think nothing of it. But it kept getting worse and worse and worse. I'm here to tell y'all that concrete floor is unforgiving in prison. Every time I seen someone in lockup about to get dumped, I would turn my head. Because I seen a few, and it hurts my head watching their head crack to concrete. Just remember that, man. In prison, the dump games could end your life. It's like zinc and titanium treated concrete. But it says after examining the security footage, detectives believe Wilson, the one that got dumped on his head and died, was likely the aggressor, while the other aggressor acted in self-defense. The preliminary investigation does not indicate any policies were violated, and there are no charges in this case. Unreal, right? This is a sad story, but at the same time, it makes me feel good that this establishment seems to be upholding justice for real. Watched the surveillance video and seen that the guy wasn't aggressive at all until the guy started attacking him. He probably just wanted to get him up off him, dumped him, stopped immediately after that. It was all broken up, but he eventually died. It doesn't matter if it's an inmate or not. If the video surveillance shows exactly what happened as self-defense, no charges should ever be pressed. But some places, they do it regardless. And chances are that inmate's going to get like 7, 8, maybe 20 more years. Most of the time, it's because it wasn't recorded on camera. It's happening in the cell and no one can really prove anything. So homeboy, whoever it was, they don't name him in this, was very lucky to have been in front of that camera. But it's still sad that Wilson lost his life at such a young age, and he was only in there for probation violations. But that's a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you enjoyed today's episode and brought a little more awareness to the prison system and all the bloodshed that's happening daily, man. You know, inmate on inmate homicides is very frequent these days. But stay tuned, I got more shocking prison stories coming your way. I don't want you missing any of this stuff, and the only way to make sure that you're tuned in is by tapping that notification bell and setting it to all. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, until the next time, y'all be easy, be safe, and more importantly than anything, stay free.